What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. So that little opening sequence was shot with the DJI Pocket 3, as is this and everything that'll be in this video. I've owned the Pocket 3 for about a year, and I've used it really in like two major ways, and I kind of wanted to broaden my horizons a little bit. So that opening sequence, I had kind of a little storyboard planned. I didn't like a lot of the scenes, so I just kind of tried to make a little bit of cinematic footage and put it together anyways with a little music, just to test it out and do something different than what I've been doing with it. So basically the two ways I've been using it are, one, as a webcam. When I do my live streams, it's great because it does have some depth of field and it works really well. It looks better than your typical webcam or GoPro. Plus it also keeps me from putting all those miles on my mirrorless cameras. You know, I used to use my 5D Mark IV. That camera kind of died a little bit. I loved using that with like 1.4 lenses. And then I was using my R5, which is still my main camera, and I don't know if it affects it, but just running it for hours on end is something I don't want to do with that. So this camera turns out to be like that perfect level. The other way is kind of when I make videos for my cycling channel, a lot of times when I want to do some talking head or vlogging type stuff, I would either use my R5 or my GoPro. And this camera is kind of the perfect in-between for those two things, because the R5 is kind of a pain, you know, to use if you just are trying to talk to the camera, and it's a little bit overkill. So the setup, you either need to put it on a tripod or you either need to hold it out front or whatever you're going to do. And then the GoPros, when you're inside, just look horrible. They're just bad at low light. You can't focus close on anything. There's no depth of field, no shallow depth of field and all that. So that is really why I bought the Pocket 3. And it's been that great kind of vloggy camera, or if I just want to show something in better quality than the GoPro would do it without getting out the bigger cameras. I did also initially want to do some footage from the bike with the Pocket 3. I've done a little bit of it and it looks fantastic. The problem is the form factor of the Pocket 3 just really isn't great for bike riding. When I ride my bike, I use a mouth mount with the GoPro. So basically, when I want to film first person, I'm holding the GoPro, you know, either upside down in my mouth or forward, which you can't see very well, but I could frame the shot a little better. Or then I can pull it off and like pan it around and stuff like that. I don't mount my GoPros because that's too static and I can't then point it where I want to. When I tried that with the Pocket 3, the form factor just doesn't lend itself to that. You have to worry about damaging the gimbal if you're trying to put it away really quick. So anything off-road, it's kind of out the window. But I love the way it looks. It's just not that practical. I'll still do it a little bit here and there, but it'll be more of a when I'm intentionally going out to film something where it'll work. So that's not a huge deal that it doesn't work like that, but it would be cool if it was a little better, but that's why action cameras exist. They're the perfect form factor for shooting action. So that is why I decided to try and make this video, just to start pushing my horizons with the Pocket 3, because it's capable of so much more than just being a simple vlog camera, which is all I've used it for. For those other shots, I was doing tilt lock, which I've never bothered with before, in the opening, which makes for doing really good push and pull shots. I started to mess with the autofocus settings. I realized when I was making those shots that on continuous it looks really bad because the focus pulls don't work at all and take you completely out of the moment. So doing the single autofocus points. Also for doing some dynamic stuff with the bike where it looks like I have a cameraman. I was working in my basement on one of my bikes and using the follow modes, And the dynamic follow modes are really cool. So what you can do is you could pick where you want the camera to follow you from, or where you want it to put you in the frame instead of just in the center. Because if you use the original mode, everything would be like this, where it's putting you in the center, and you definitely, you know, or a lot of times you don't want that headroom. And when I'm working on my bikes, then I'm getting a ton of ceiling instead of the bikes. So now you could pick like kind of like rule of thirds type shots and put yourself in a different perspective. I've been building out the studio. That's what the, you know, little bit of that intro showed with the time lapse part. Tried the time lapse mode for the first time. This will also do like those dynamic time lapses where it pans across and stuff, which could be really cool, which I have not tried yet, but I'm looking forward to doing it at some point. So I've tried the follow mode there too, as I was cleaning everything up. So in the background, I'll show a little bit of before and after the studio. I mentioned in the last video how I've been using that storefront space kind of just as advertising and setting it up in a way that, you know, looks cool as people walked by. But as I've been mentioning how I do want to eventually make that into a store or lease it to someone to have some kind of store, I figured it would be cool to set it up a little bit more like that so it has that vibe. I think I'm gonna plan an event where people could come in and we're gonna do some photography type stuff. I'll have more information about that in the future, but having that space clean and set up in that way, I think, you know, I don't know, whatever it would be, what's some trendy phrase, like putting my vision into action and putting the vibes out there in the right way. I don't know, whatever. But anyways, there's so many great tutorials on the DJI Pocket 3, and before I made the beginning to this video and some of the stuff I've been trying lately, I've been watching them. It's amazing, this camera. You know, I think DJI is holding off on the, like, you know, coming out with a 4 or anything, because this camera is still selling so well these years later because it is such a huge upgrade from the Pocket 2. And a low light, depth of field, it just, I can't believe for this sensor how great this camera performs. It really, I think there's a lot of times where you would look at footage from the Pocket 3 and think someone is filming with a full frame or a much, much nicer camera. So I would still highly recommend it at this point. You know, you get the creator bundle, you get the extra little battery, you get the wireless mic, which I'm filming or recording my audio on right now, which for me so far is the only weakness. For some reason, I have not figured out how to get the audio I would really like out of this. I changed one setting, which helped a little bit, but that's going to be one of my next moves, to watch some tutorials. I have it underneath my bandana, but I still, when I use my Rodes and my, what are Rodes called? Drawing a blank, name on screen. But I don't get this kind of muffled sound, so I don't think it's just that I'm hiding the mic. So need a little work to do on that, but we'll figure it all out. So that's gonna be it for this video. Not something super long or not super in depth on the Pocket 3, because there's just a ton of content out there if you want that. Just a little bit of my perspective and how it's been working for me, and how now I'm gonna try and maybe, you know, push it to the next level and do a little bit more with this little camera. All right, thanks as always for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.